This is internationally best-selling indie author Michael Brent Collings inviting you to join me at bestsellerlife.com/DCR to unlock my tips, tricks, and hacks for a successful writing career. So go to bestsellerlife.com/DCR and kickstart your writing adventure today.
This is Daniel.
And this is Krebs.
This is Alton.
And I am Matai.
And you're listening to Dungeon Crawlers Radio, the greatest geek podcast out there. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Dungeon Crawlers Radio, where we are here to talk about a movie that has been around. Well, this particular movie has not been around for a while, but the series has been around for a while, much like Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and things like that.
Also, Beats and Bears?
Yes.
Another fine trilogy.
Yes, we'll be talking about the third installment of the series Tron. So Tron Ares recently came out. This is the third movie in the series. We're going to be talking about our thoughts, our opinions, and a little bit about the movie. So be aware, there might be some spoilers in this episode if you have not seen this movie. If you don't really care, that's okay. Listen away. If you do care, just simply pause, go watch the movie, and come back afterwards. So let's dive in. I know Matai was the first one to see the movie out of the group of us. I unfortunately had to wait a little bit longer, but I did recently see it. I know Krebs has seen it as well. So we're going to give our hot take on it, the good, the bad, the ugly, or maybe the opposite, or something in between. So who wants to dive in first?
Well, I'll go.
All right.
I've been a fan of Tron for since the 80s when it came out. It was so... just the look of the movie was so different, and it was computers, and I was already a burgeoning computer nerd back then. It just seemed amazing, and the soundtrack was great, and I spent way too many quarters in the Tron video game at the arcade.
Yes.
Man, those stupid bugs, grid bugs. Anyway, so the movie was really great. And then when Tron Legacy came out, that is my number one favorite movie of all time. Just the visuals were fantastic. I liked the story. I loved going back to the grid and all of that. So I was really looking forward to Tron Ares. Actually, I was looking forward to Tron 3, which got scrapped in favor of Tron Ares.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah. So, but I still went in with an open mind. There was a lot of trash talk about Jared Leto, but I don't think he's that bad. Actually, I think he's a really amazing actor who does some pretty crappy roles. But the guy can definitely act. He doesn't do anything accidental. If he came off a certain way, he did it on purpose. So I was like, okay, well let's give this a try. So I went in to go see it, and the whole premise that everybody was expecting was, well, now let's bring these programs into the real world and see how that interacts. I liked the premise of the story. Kind of combined, like the 3D printing craze as a means to get them out of the computer into the thing. That seems like that was close enough to reality to be believable, and I liked that premise. One thing I didn't like is that I felt disconnected from most of the previous movies. Things were called back in name only in most cases. Now, that's not to say there weren't any connections. There were several homages to the original Tron. Yeah. There was, the movie poster pose. There was going back to the original grid and the classic light cycle, or vintage light cycle, however you want to call it. And we did have a cameo by Flynn. I'm not spoiling anything that was talked about in the trailers.
You saw it in the trailer and everything.
Yeah. So,
I mean, my favorite thing, just to interrupt real quick, is we got to see 5 1/4-inch floppy disks.
Oh my gosh, I went crazy. I was far more pleased by that than I had any right to be.
I know. I mean, I'm sitting there watching this, and they're like, and they're trying to find this code, and they find it on his backup server on a 5 1/4, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. if any other kids are watching this, they're like, "What the heck is that?" I don't know what this is.
It's the save icon, but not quite.
So there were a couple of callbacks to the original movie. There was like one or two where they mentioned characters from Legacy, and it left me feeling like this was a disconnected story. And I kind of left the movie theater with a feeling of this common complaint we have with adaptations. You take a beloved source material and you use all the names, but you throw out a lot of the lore and a lot of the secret ingredient that gave that story life, that makes it why people are so appealed. That's how I felt leaving the theater, was that this was similar to that. Having said that, as an action movie and a special effects spectacle, I did enjoy it. So for me, it was good and it was bad. I liked the movie as a movie. Standalone, its own thing. I thought it was good. I had no complaints about Jared Leto. I thought he was great. I loved seeing Gillian Anderson, Scully with an English accent. I thought that was great. So all that was good, but what made me sad is it didn't. We have a Tron movie where Tron doesn't make an appearance and he's not even mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, for my take on all this, I have very similar feelings in that I enjoyed the movie. I had a good time with it. The visuals were incredible. I'm gonna start with my criticisms. I'm gonna end on the positives. Sure. Okay. So here are my criticisms. First, I feel like some of their world rules either don't work, don't make sense, or break previous establishment. So, for example, the whole film is about these programs, these ISOs or whatever you want to call them, that come out of the grid translated into the real world. We're translating tanks and APCs and light cycles and all this really cool technology and people, living organic things that have 29 minutes to live, right? And then they naturally break down and then de-res in the real world and just become non-existent matter. And so first criticism is the lasers. They even say this in the movie. We have laser projectors that create matter out of thin air. That's not how matter works, guys. That's not, you don't create matter out of nothing, right? These are not God guns. And so that part alone, I was like, okay, I could have believed it if there was some coalescing of some molecularly ambiguous material, like some sort of like filament that could be manipulated in its atomic structure, and maybe I could get behind that. But these lasers literally print out of nothing, and I'm like, well, what's to stop you from printing everything? I mean, one of the things they print is a fully ripened orange tree. So like, which and then who does that? A girl named Eve. And what are they waiting for? This fruit to exist? And I'm just like, oh, this is very Garden of Eden, and like, anyway. And so that was something I had an issue with just as a technologist, was you guys came up with magic science for movies yet again, which is what movies do. They usually do that. But they didn't put in enough effort to give it any sort of plausible explanation. And then not only can they create inanimate objects, but they can create living beings with a limited time span. And what they're looking for is the so-called permanence code to keep it in the real world forever. And all of this ignores the fact that Flynn's son Sam comes back to the real world with, I think her name's Cora, right?
Yeah.
Comes back to the world with Cora, and they seem to be just fine. They came through the matter translation canon in Flynn's arcade, and they're just dandy. So
you know why that is.
Why?
One thing is that they came through the matter canon. Sam was a human. He was a user, and so even Flynn, Kevin did that back and forth several times. And then Cora was an ISO. She was a and that was what made Kevin go crazy in Legacy. She's a self-existent being. She and the other ISOs weren't created. They appeared because they naturally evolved from the environment. Meanwhile, Ares and Athena and these others are programs being downloaded into a synthetic body.
Oh, yeah. I see.
And
so there's a little
those ISOs had their own double helix genetic code.
Okay.
So they were electronic living beings, and so when she was translated out into the real world, she could exist because she wasn't just a simple program.
Because her buffered code had basically the permanence already in there.
Yes.
All right, I see. Okay. All right. I can kind of get past that a little bit. Then I guess we're okay there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I can put that criticism aside as we continue kind of like go down this line a little bit. I enjoyed what they had in general. The trailer makes this look like all-out war. Right, the trailer you've got the floating. I forget what are those floating like
recognizer.
They're recognizers. That thing launches all these little mini light cycle missiles, and the trailer is gorgeous. The way that they display this, I wanted this to be like a full blown war. You can see red versus blue. It turns out that happens on the grid, not in the real world. They do some neat things with the memory disks. On the backs of the programs. You've got different shapes. You have septagons and hexagons. Then you have the triangle. Triangle has blades, and they do some really cool things. They refer to master control. That's a great throwback to the original. They do all these things, but mostly they're focusing on sort of like the progression of Jared Leto's character's discovery of the permanence code in pursuit of Derringer's ambitions, right? And so what happens is like the what we see in the trailer is, once again, Disney, I really wish you'd stop doing this. What we see in the trailer is effectively the climax of the film.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop doing that. Stop robbing us of the spectacle of discovery by putting it in the trailer. Give us something that leads up to it, sure, but don't show us like the biggest events in the movie. So yeah, that's more of an editing critique. But now the positive stuff. The positive stuff is, one more criticism. One more criticism is that the story was good, but it had the potential to be great. And
yes, that was one thing I forgot to mention. Totally agree.
Yes, the story felt a little lackluster, like it lacked a certain level of substance, like it didn't have the permanence code, right? It felt like it lacked a certain depth and meaning that they kind of. It's like they took 2/3 steps on everything, not half steps, but 2/3 steps, and thus we end up with a film that feels like it's less than it should have been, but it's still significantly more than a bad film, which gets me to the good stuff. The good stuff is, again, visuals are fantastic. I actually don't think Matthew will agree with me on this one, but I really like the soundtrack a lot. I loved the Daft Punk soundtrack from the second film, loved it to pieces, and I don't think this soundtrack is as good. I think it's still a great soundtrack. There are two particular tracks that just stand out that are just phenomenal.
Actually, I would agree with that. I like the Daft Punk one better, and there were two songs on this one that I liked.
See, got it, nailed it. But in terms of like the feel of the music as it matches up with the scenes in the film, for the most part, absolutely dead on. They did inject one song from Depeche Mode in there. I loved that. That was awesome.
Anything by Depeche Mode will make me fall in love with your movie for at least 29 minutes.
The song they chose, I don't think fit the mood of the film, or the mood of the moment, but it was still a fun song.
I think it fit the mood of the character, though.
Yes, it fit the character. So maybe a different scene would have housed that song. I believe it was Just Can't Get Enough, right?
Yep.
But there were so many Depeche Mode songs they could have chosen, and done it for that scene and had it fit better, or they could have built up to it and not have it just be something that was just like a one-off in the movie. You know, a little Depeche Mode here, a little Depeche Mode there, maybe some Cure. But anyway, and so I lost my train. Sorry, hang on a second. I got this. Oh yeah, so the music. The music's phenomenal. I think Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor specifically, like came out and did a bang up job, and I liked it because you had the sort of like the original synth 80s style music for the first film. You had this mashup, 80s gave way to what we now know as electronica, and that's where Daft Punk comes in, and it had a very modern taste to it. But then now we're getting like into the real world, and the real world is a dirty, messy place. It's not as clean and as beautiful as the grid. And so now you have this gritty, industrial, modern take on music, which is Nine Inch Nails. I think the progression of the music makes a lot of sense, so I liked that a lot. And here's the last thing I'll say on this before I pass it over to Dan, who's probably itching to give his opinion. I realized I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, I think it was, and I said, look, I know we saw it not that long ago, but I already want to watch Tron Ares again. It's not even, and it's not even like a great film. I didn't leave the theater just blown away. I still had my socks on, but after a few days, I found myself going like, I really want to watch that again. I think I'd really enjoy seeing that another time. So that's where I landed on it. Daniel, what about you?
Well, before I dive into in my opinion, A Question of Time would have been a much better song for that scene. That one has a very fast-paced tempo in there. It's talking about, because they're racing, because they got 29 minutes. That would have been a much better song as they're zipping along in the car,
right?
To fit into there. That song I've always loved of Depeche Mode because it just has that fast, quick beat to it.
I don't want to derail things by going on to Depeche Mode stuff, but man, it was a car chase. They should have done Behind the Wheel.
Or even that,
yeah. Behind the Wheel would have been a great one. Maybe a little on the nose. On the nose.
I mean, either of those two would have been great songs to put in there instead of Just Can't Get Enough. Again, that fun poppy synth sound still would have been there, and he still would have been able to use that line. I think you guys have hit several great points about this film on the nose. Was it fun? Was it enjoyable? Yes. Did they kind of ruin it because of the trailer? I think so. They gave away kind of the end because it wasn't an all-out war. If it had been a whole all-out war the whole time, that would have been something different. And that's kind of what I felt like from seeing the trailer is, these, programs from the grid have escaped and they're wreaking havoc on, normal society. But we didn't see that. We saw something much different. Was Jared Leto horrible? No. But was he amazing? No. He was just bland. Ares' character had moments where he kind of shined, but he had other moments where he was just kind of boring. Which, for a program that didn't really know how to live, I think worked in their favor. The fact that there was no Tron. At first, I was a little disappointed until I realized that Tron is NCON's, leader of the safety and antivirus programs. This was all on the Dillinger server, so it kind of made sense that he didn't show up. But there is a moment that he should have in the film. Without giving away a spoiler, there's a moment that he should have shown up.
Yeah.
And that would have been a great recall back to everything. Yes, I did like to see the original grid, the original Tron cycle, or light cycle, excuse me.
Yeah.
The little bit, the yes. I wish he would have gotten really annoying and gone, no, like we saw in the past. It was a little frustrating that, when we see Flynn, it was in this weird architect environment, but it worked. There just wasn't enough, in my opinion, that tied it back to the other two movies. You know, Sam Flynn was just this brief mention.
Yeah,
Why didn't
on
we
a
see
TV.
Yeah. And why didn't we see him more? We see Cora on a picture at the very end. There was no Tron, no Alan Box letter. Flynn is Flynn. I mean,
you mean Bruce
Boxleitner.
Boxleitner.
Yes, excuse me. His character's name was Alan. Yeah, I mixed the two together.
It's all
I
good.
apologize.
It's all good.
But yes, he wasn't in there. It just felt like we had enough crumbs to call it a Tron movie, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
It should have been Ares. That just should have been the title. Ares in the Land of Tron.
But that could have made it like a Disney Plus series, and I think it would have been a better story presentation that way. And I think Disney has done this multiple times now, where they've released a movie that should have been a series, or they had a series that could have been like a movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they scrapped the third movie that was supposed to follow the last one because they didn't get enough money. And unfortunately, it sounds like they're doing...
Did you just say Disney didn't get enough money?
Yeah. It didn't make enough money. And it sounds like they've already decided, like, because the opening weekend wasn't big on this one, they've already decided, we're not. All the pieces they've set up for a sequel for this one, they've already decided, we're probably scrapping this. This is the problem.
Even though the
Tron,
weekend wasn't great, it did pick up. It's lasted a lot longer than the ones that hit really big and burn out fast. It continues to get stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing. This is historically, Tron has never done well. The movie itself, the first one, the second one, neither of them did really well opening weekend. But over time, they have done really well.
Absolutely.
But Disney doesn't look at that. They look at that opening weekend. If it doesn't hit a certain amount, this is a failure.
Yeah.
I think the problem here is traditional opening weekend mentality no longer exists. We have to scrap that because we have streaming and stuff like that. Yeah,
post-COVID, post-streaming.
Yeah, there's just too much competing out there for them. You know, you can't determine the success of a show anymore off of opening weekend because now we have HBO Max, we have Netflix, we have Disney Plus, we have Paramount. I mean, there's all these competing streams that people can now watch movies from. And so you have to gauge that in a different way. Okay, what is the overall lifespan? Do I think this movie will do well? I think it can. I think it can cross the line. It's still fun. You guys have hit great points. The soundtrack was fairly decent. I enjoyed it. I didn't find myself like, oh man, this really is like sticking out like a sore thumb because it was 9 Inch Nails. I was hoping for a little bit more, some powerhouse 9 Inch Nails songs in there, but I didn't get that. It was just, it was music without the lyrics, but it worked. It was a little bit darker because we're dealing with, the dark side of the Tron universe in a way. The ultimate villains, there were multiple ones, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed them and why they were doing what they were doing. But I do have to agree. The lasers, I'm just like, from a storyteller perspective, like, you just like, there's no explanation. You're just throwing in some mumbo jumbo to try to make it sound reasonable, and away we go. Like laser beams creating a tree.
Yeah,
you can actually make orange juice from the fruit because it didn't disappear. Like. Not like, even if they would have said, the lasers are capturing the floating carbon in the air and it's forming it into, actual things, that would make more sense than, it's just making matter out of nothing.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. In fact, actually, one thing that stuck out to me, and Matthew who is our resident 3D printing expert, might be able to back me up on this, excuse me, is... you have the Dillinger lasers, which are super fresh, and they're like on these huge scaffolds, and they have these great rigs. They're obviously like the best version. Then you've got Eve's lasers for Encom. They're doing like this secret research in an Arctic area, and it's like on these absolutely rickety, jerry-rigged, put together kind of, scaffolds and tracks and stuff, but there's only like a few of them. There's only like 3 of these lasers, right? Whereas Dillinger had like 7 or 8. And then you've got this one matter cannon in Flynn's arcade that is 40 years old. And the good news is they all print at the same speed, right? Like they all take just a matter of seconds, either together or just by one. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So it just takes one really heavy one from the 80s to do what these modern ones can do. So that's the same reason why Iron Man 3 left a bad taste in my mouth.
One of the interesting things about that is that the first one was supposed to resemble the cathode ray that's used for TVs. The old TVs, not the flat screen for all you youngins out there. But that's what it would do, is it used mirrors to deflect a light beam that would excite gases on your screen, and that's how you would do a TV. Is it would just scan line by line by line. And now the bad part about the original Tron was that there was the beam would hit a human and only do the human, but not the chair he was sitting in. And then when it went to project him back out, there was nothing for that beam to hit. It just stopped at a certain point. And light doesn't work that way. For the Tron Ares lasers, I think they were going for something similar to resin or UV printing, where it's the intersection of 2 lasers create a spot and something happens there, right? So if it was doing this in a volume of gel, that would make more sense. I kind of looked at it as one of the beams was probably a plasma beam, and the other laser would coalesce that plasma into matter. But when you do that, you can't. The idea that you can get such a variety of elements and matter out of that, one that can create the complex hydrocarbons necessary for a living tree, versus a synthetic body or a tank or whatever. So they were stretching things there, but at least there was some basis that you could suspend your disbelief.
Yeah. I mean, the MacGuffin was crazy in this, but
I could accept that. Hey, can I have a D&D story for you guys.
Yes.
Oh, really? Tangent here, yeah. I remember this one game where one party member asked another party member, "Hey, are those hickeys on your neck?" And she responded, "Yeah, it's this wizard I'm dating." And she said, "A wizard gave you hickeys?" And she responded, "Well, technically he's a necromancer."
Oh my gosh.
I had another player who wanted to use magic but didn't have any weapons, and he got in a melee situation. So he says, "Hey, can I summon a frying pan?" And I said, "Well, how would you do that?" "Well, don't you just have to cast iron?"
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh!
Said, "Oh man!" And then can I use it as an improvised weapon? I said, "Yeah, but you'll have to roll a skillet check."
Oh, Matthew. Okay. Now that last one.
That last one is bad. Up until that point. Yeah.
That's when you get a knock at the door from the dad joke police. You're going to serve time for that one.
Gosh.
I should have stuck with the fireball jokes. Those are always a hit. Unless you make a saving throw.
It's magic missile. It's magic missile.
They really light up the crowd, though.
Oh, Matthew. Sick burn. All right, so.
It's a great way to ignite a conversation.
Yes,
Jeez, Benizes. I can't take you anywhere.
He's on fire right now.
These jokes are hot, I tell you.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Serve it up with some eggs. All right.
Would you like some cheese with that?
Yep.
Too
with a side
late
of hot sauce.
and too much.
With a side of hot sauce. There we go.
Yeah, so overall, should our audience be, how interested should our audience be in watching Tron Ares then?
I think they should. I would recommend the movie. Just do not go in with high expectations as I was as a huge Tron fan. Go in to enjoy the movie for what it is. But don't expect a huge expansion of the Tron lore, at least not that matches canon. But overall, it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it was great. I wasn't wowed by it, but it's worth seeing. And because of the special effects and the soundtrack, I would recommend seeing it in the theaters first.
Yes.
So you have that experience to draw upon when you see it on your home screen.
Yeah. I mean, this is how I kind of see it. You know how you get you read a book series and then they release a spin-off on one character that's a side quest story that really has nothing to do with the main storyline. That's what this book feels like. It's like, okay, we've created this character called Ares. He lives in the grid. He's not really part of our, the main storyline, but we're going to write this other story that later on he connects into the main canon. It's kind of like the what they did, Disney and Marvel did with Miss Marvel. We're going to go back. We're going to create this character, and then we're eventually going to connect her into our main storyline. That's kind of how this story feels. Because, and I didn't mention this earlier, but at the very, very end, there is a mid-credit scene.
Yes.
And we see the original villain, Sark, appear. So,
yeah.
It's
a throwback to him.
Yeah. It is. I mean, we saw a lot of that. But if this is a plot point, so the next movie involves Sam and Cora, and it all comes together, then this discussion changes, in my opinion. It goes from, this was an origin story, that we needed this character so that we could complete the full arc. That I could accept. But right now, without that end point, it just kind of feels, it's a great movie, it's fun, it's a great throwback, but you don't get a lot of meat to move the story along further. You could easily skip this movie and be okay. But is it still enjoyable? Is it still great? Is it worth seeing? I think so. I'd give it around a B range, if we were to grade it. It's not quite an A, but it's still enjoyable enough that I'd watch it again. I liked it. The visuals were stunning. The music was good. Jared Leto's particular style of acting works, but I do think they could have picked someone better, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I felt very much the same way on all those things, which is to say, I give it a pretty stable 3 out of 5. Mm-hmm. It's not going to knock your socks off, but it's not going to fully disappoint either. Little things that we could sit here as technologists or as realists and be like, oh, this end of the movie and everything, but like the idea that a program can get the permanence code and then they can just go travel the world, and it's like, bro, what about a social security number? What about a passport? Like now that you're real and now that you sweat and bleed and stuff, like what about using the bathroom, bro? Like, things like that. But all that aside, it's that aspect of filmmaking that I think we sometimes lose touch with, which is the whole purpose of this visual medium is to bring fantasy into the real world. And in many ways, Tron Ares is a direct metaphor for why we make movies in the first place. And it is one of those films that if you watch it, it will not feel like a complete waste of your time if you're a reasonable human being who can find joy in almost any situation, right? Like, this is a good, enjoyable film. If you want to check out the parts of the soundtrack that matter most, I highly recommend the sort of thematic track of the whole film, which is As Alive as You Need Me to Be, as well as the track number 7, which is I Know You Can Feel It. Those two songs are probably the best songs in the entire soundtrack, and they get used as sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? Not just the theme, but like they reprise these songs multiple times throughout the film to give it the right feel. And these songs are the foundation of the film. So highly recommend, especially considering that the soundtrack has 24 songs on it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Great, enjoyable movie. I'm going to get this one on 4K. I'm going to watch it on my TV with my sound system. Probably watch it in a double feature with Tron Legacy, that kind of thing. Do recommend.
Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed the movie. I'd agree with Daniel. Give it a B.
All right. Yeah. I hope we do get to see that future film where it connects everything, because then that would be amazing to be able to see Sam and Cora, Flynn, Ares, Sark, all these things that they're trying to build up. It would be amazing to see that. The only problem I see is I don't think Disney will do it because, again, it all comes down to numbers for them.
We'll have to cross our fingers because after Tron, they were never going to go back and revisit Tron.
Oh, I know.
And then we got Legacy, 30 years later or whatever. And so, and then it was several years after that, and we finally got Tron Ares. So who knows? Who knows?
And let's not forget the animated series Tron Uprising.
Tron Uprising.
Which was a great show, and it deserved another season, and it never got it, but fans kept clamoring for them to do it.
True.
Yeah.
Ended on a cliffhanger. There were some games that tried to add to the story as well. Tron Rebellion or something like that. So there are...
This needs to get in the hands of like Kevin Feige or Jon Favreau or something. This needs to get in the hands of someone who loves the source material and can breathe some life into it.
Yeah, it has potential. I mean, it
does.
definitely does. There's lots of potential there, especially if you keep to the source material, which we've talked about on end with these IPs. You gotta be in touch with that. If you find a mega fan, like you've said, it's going to shine. It's really gonna to work through. The biggest problem, I think, is it's just these big budget movies, you can't expect to get an immediate return. The box office is just not showing that. And so they need to kind of look at this as a long term instead of the short term run. How well is it doing? But again, folks, this is a fantastic movie. It's fun. In my opinion, I don't see any reason why you couldn't take kids to go see this. Other than, you do see some people in real life de-res and fall apart. But there's not like blood and gore or anything like that. I think the language is fairly reasonable. It's
very
not,
tame.
It's not like some movies out there.
They don't slip an F-bomb into this one.
No. And so it's definitely a film that I will eventually take my kids to go see. My only worry is that they'll be bored, but because the reason for that is there's a lot of references that they won't get.
Yeah,
like especially my younger kids, they're probably not going to know who Depeche Mode is. They're not.
Well,
gonna
that's
know.
a parenting problem, Daniel.
Yeah.
You're not raising them right.
Well, it's because they're going to go, that's dad music. My older kids do, but yeah, the younger kids like, yeah, this is just dad's music. But yeah, the small little breadcrumbs that they gave us for Tron Legacy, for Tron, they're probably not going to get those things. But I think visually they'll love it. But that said, like as we've said, we've all kind of agreed across the board it's about a B. It's still a good enough movie to see and enjoy on its own. So go out and see it. That's at least our opinion. Maybe Alton will have a different one. We'll have to have him write something up and throw it out on the website or something. Or maybe just do his own episode where he talks about it. But anyways, with that said, we're going to take off, and we'll catch you next time.
Remember, my little programs, let your geek flag fly, so say we all.
And crawlers, tell your story, whatever may come. And always remember to be epic! And don't squander an entire IP because you have such limited vision, Disney.
That would suck.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find us.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
What happens when modern magic, high-tech weaponry, and an unstoppable dragon collide? Find out in the epic audiobook of A Dragon's Fate, brought to life by Daniel and Krebs. This Whitney Award finalist novel will pull you into a pulse-pounding world where a secret cabal battles for power, and a dragon could bring everything to an explosive end. Don't just hear the story. Feel the magic, the danger, and the action. Get ready for a ride you won't forget. Grab your copy of A Dragon's Fate, now available on Audible.